Yo, Thought Warriors. What is up? Our Learning is on. It's I, Van Lathan.
And it's me, Rachel and Lindsay.
Van Lathan Jr.
Yeah, I was waiting for it.
Shout out to Dad. I love you, Dad. Rachel, you were just telling me about something that's very interesting. It's not in the rundown, but it's interesting to me. What happened now? Tell me what happened.
Which thing? See, I get nervous whenever you start the podcast because we've been talking about personal stuff and then I get nervous.
I'm not talking about your personal stuff. I will say that it's a great time in the personal life of Big Rachel. I'm very happy. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm gonna say. But you were telling me about something else that just happened.
Okay. So there was a time where we really had you wrapped in the housewives world.
Yeah, for sure.
Particularly with Potomac.
You've
fallen off, and I get it, because the last couple of seasons have been great. But it's back. It's good. We have new faces. And if you want more coverage of Housewives, please check us out on Morally Corrupt. Drops every Friday afternoon. But the Grand Dame, Karen Huger, she has been in a lot of legal trouble.
What happened to the Grand Dame?
I think it was earlier this year, not last year, but she had a DUI. It's not her first go. I think it's her second DUI. This time she ran into a tree. So it happened right before the season started filming. So they start off this whole season with the reenactment. Yeah. Bravo knows exactly what they're doing. Now they have a deer running across the road because I think that is what Karen said happened. She wouldn't talk about it on the season because she said it's an open case. Makes sense. But she maintained her innocence. She was fighting the case. A lot of people are saying, why was she fighting? Probably had to because it is her second DUI. I think she's facing up to like 2 years in prison.
Wow.
This morning.
2 years in prison for the Grand Dame?
Max. Second offense. So it drops either last night or this morning that she was found guilty. It was probably yesterday. Found guilty for the DUI and she's awaiting sentencing. So because she was found guilty, they have released the footage, the body cam footage from that night. Karen was on one. This has got to be embarrassing for Karen. This is like not a laughing matter, but some of the things that she was saying, they were. There's a difference between drunk and being blackout drunk. Yeah. Karen was blacked out.
What did she say?
She said that she was Thomas Jefferson's concubine.
She old enough?
Really? Really? Because she's been looking great. I actually saw her last weekend at
She said she's
Camp
Thomas
Lightbulb.
Jefferson's concubine.
Yeah. She also says that she is the daughter of a slave owner and owns a slave plantation.
Okay.
Now, I think she did buy her family's land, which might have been previously a plantation.
Maybe she means to say that she's like the descendant of Sally Hemings.
She's not.
She's not anymore.
She's not. That would have come out. But needless to say, and what a lot of people are talking about. So if you followed the trajectory of Karen Huger on Potomac, you know, when she first came on, her wigs were not what they are now. Like Karen is like, she's come out and said she just had like I think she had a facelift or a neck lift or something like that. Her wigs are on point. She looks bad. I saw it in person last week. She looks amazing. But when she first came on, those wigs, there's a scene where she had to shift the wig. She had to shift it. It was sliding and she had to shift the wig. In the footage of this, it's back to season 1, Karen.
So she was fucked up with the wig. But is it possibly that
shifting.
the wig, is it possible, should I say, that the wig itself was disheveled because of her drunken activities?
I mean, from hitting the tree? Because she crashed her car into a tree.
Right. I would imagine that your wig would be fucked up.
If your wig is glued down,
so
that shouldn't happen.
They glue the wig on?
Lace front wigs are glued down. Yes. Now, I'm wearing a wig
today. I thought they
today.
sew the wig in.
That's a weave. That's an extension.
Okay.
And you can have a full frontal where it's all sewn down to braids, or you can have a lace front wig, you know, where you see the lace, that's glued down.
So it's glued.
Like, if
that stays in.
Like, my wig right now is being held on by a bandana. Didn't feel like gluing it down.
Yeah. Hulk Hogan.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
One quick move.
Yeah.
And the whole thing could come off.
Give him a brother. Yeah, brother.
One quick move.
Give him a brother.
It ain't cute underneath. I have a hair appointment today.
Okay. But her wigs obviously weren't glued down.
I don't know what this was. It was shifting. So it could have been glued. It could have been loose. You never seen a woman where you can see
Yeah,
it's sliding a bit.
Yeah.
It's sliding back a little bit. That's because the glue.
I get the wig situation.
Yeah, that's happened to me before too.
I didn't know that it was glued though. I thought that it was some kind of way that it was like.
There are various ways. You can have it clipped down. You can have it glued down, lace front. You can have it sewn in, which is like full frontal, like sewn in, like no hairs out. If you leave it out, that's where it's like the extensions, the weave, where your hair covers the tracks in your hair. There's so many different ways. You can have half wig. You know, when I wear my bob, that's a half wig.
My hair's in shambles right now.
Give us an update.
So I'm in the shedding phase, which means the hairs that were put in are now starting to fall out as those follicles regrow.
Mm-hmm.
And the line that they brought it down to is still there, but the old carnage of my hair is still...
Let me see.
It's called the ugly duckling phase.
Let me see it. Oh, this is perfect timing for you to be revealing the hair.
There's a guy with the good hairline. We're going to walk him right into the show. There's a guy with the good hairline. I'm showing my hair transplant.
Yeah, no, come on in. Come on in. Have a seat.
Jaleel White just joined us.
Yeah,
just walk right in. We're going to read the room.
The timing couldn't be perfect as Van is giving us an update on the hairline.
And in walks a brother who's at least 2 years my senior, I think, whose hairline is fucking amazing. Everybody look great. Jaleel White joins us on Higher Learning today. Everybody, give it up for Jaleel White. How you doing, my man? Yeah, put it right there in the front.
Put it on. Cover it up with ours.
I read it.
I had audio.
Go ahead and take me to task or whatever you want.
Oh yeah,
I did audio. No, but yeah, we're gonna have a nice conversation, Jaleel.
Yeah. No, actually, I say something about.
I listen to y'all, so
I say something about the book though. The book was hilarious.
It's better if you listen.
Why?
Because I have. Yeah, I never do Audible. Like I've never listened to a book because my attention span is better. I have to see it, but I listen, and it's better listening to it.
Put it right here in the front. Knock our books down.
I feel like I get to know you better.
Our shit didn't sell.
Yeah, let's.
Our shit didn't sell. Put Jaleel shit in the front.
Stop saying that.
My publisher hit me up and was like, "Stop talking about the book."
I love it.
Yeah. Jaleel White, what's up, my brother?
What's going on, Cat?
How are you doing?
Happy holidays, first of all, to everybody out there.
Happy holidays to you, my man.
I'm serious, y'all skin is glowing. Why you talking about hairline? Your skin is glowing.
The skin matters, but I want my corners back. I look at
corners.
Yeah, see how you said corners.
Have you been watching the progression of it? Because when he first revealed it, it was fantastic. But this is what he's calling the ugly duckling stage.
The hair sheds, and then it comes
I don't think
back.
you should call attention to things that are not working when other things are working. The hat is wonderful. Your skin is glowing.
Appreciate
you know what I'm saying? The weight is down.
Nice.
I know about that journey.
God, yep.
Nice.
I know about that journey. You know what I'm saying? Like,
what's your sign? What's your astrological sign? Is it an earth sign?
I'm a Sag.
Oh, you're Sag. Okay.
You used to see me on my daily TMZ walks that I would take in order to keep my steps up. That was when I was still hooping and stuff, and I was in really good shape. And then the pandemic knocked me off, but I would see you riding your bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not gonna tell people your neighborhood, but I would see you riding your bike, and we would talk a little bit, man. When your book came out, I was really excited to read it because having interviewed you before and knowing a little bit about you, I know how your journey and everything that you've observed and witnessed shaped your worldview. Why did you want to share that with people?
You know, it was just timing. You know, Stefan saved my life. Millennials are saving my life.
Mm-hmm.
I smile because I would have never thought that show would last as long as it did. My mom didn't even want to get a new car for the first 4 seasons of the show. And here we are 30 years later still talking about its historical context.
Right.
But I had a fan at a professional fan, and that's what it takes to win in our business. You got to have a professional fan at Simon & Schuster who was like, man, your story needs to be told. He saw me on Talib Kweli and on his podcast, and he was just like, the way you were so self-aware of certain things that were going on around you in the construct of the show. He was like, you got to share that in what's your real life. So I had actually taken a bunch of notes that I'd kept on my computer for a book perhaps one day. Mm-hmm. So when I showed him the proposal, it was just like, let's go. And it was just, that's the thing that you need to succeed in all facets of media is that unanimous yes. Mm-hmm. And so I got the unanimous yes, and the millennials are here for it. And that's the part that just really makes me smile. It really does.
Millennials are back. We're back in styles. The kids love the kid. No, they do.
Pandemic whoop y'all
our
ass, but you
music,
back. You
our
back.
clothes. Yeah. You say Stefan Urquelle saved your life. What do you mean by that?
Oh, I talk about it a little bit in the book, but I'm like, I was very naive as a kid, culturally. I was just.
Me too, though.
I just was culturally. I wasn't out there like, Kanye is so bold about, I wanted to wear this outfit and I wanted to wear this shoe because I knew it was going to make me feel this way. I needed Jordans. I needed Sega Genesis. I needed good grades to keep my mom off my back. That was it. That's what it was. So, Stefan definitely saved my life because I didn't know it was coming. And I didn't know how many Black women out there needed to see something that was closer to me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't create it. I've never taken credit for it. Our white executive producer, who happened to have been married to a Black woman, wrote that character and was like, yo, you need to play this character. And I was like, Dave, he's kind of boring. He was like, really? You think so, Jay? I was like, all he does is tell Carl he's lost weight when he has it, and he over compliments Harriet. I'm like, is that a character? I go through a lot of different steps to become my character. So I'm like, that's it, just 2 beats and just walk around like I'm Babyface a little bit. I'm like, all right, cool. But I hit that door and people just saw me so differently. And I didn't get the magnitude of that, to answer your question. So anytime I said something saved my life, I just say I'm like, and even millennials, where it was like that generation, the show hit with in syndication, the biggest.
Mm-hmm.
I see the financials of it, the biggest. So to have people that are still in their 30s, that are, in young 30s too, that are just like, oh, Mr. White, Mr. Say, okay, don't call me Mr. White. You can call me Jay still.
Yeah,
Jaleel, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's just like, I'm just so grateful. I'm crazy grateful. We couldn't have thought that it would last that long, the legacy of it.
When you talk about like, because when you read the book, right? And I think particularly with some of the stuff that has went viral lately, and we'll talk about your conversation that went viral just a second ago. We'll talk about that.
We will.
But you know what? But you know
I'm
what
not
the thing
done with you, Negro.
But you know what the thing that I get from what you're reading the book is, to a lot of Black kids that I know, that is a very typical Black upbringing.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think sometimes.
And I agree.
Yeah. So when you say that you weren't, no, you loved basketball. You had parents who, I remember my mom wanted me to take a girl out to her little debut thing and stuff. When I was in 12th
etiquette
grade,
class. I did that.
But all of that stuff. So do you
Jack
think
and Jill?
I was
Jack and Jill, that whole nine?
Yes.
That's a different part of Black culture that perhaps maybe isn't
talked about enough.
Talked about by the media, but it's definitely Black culture. Do you think that maybe you thought that you weren't a part of a cultural movement because you didn't see it?
So look, you don't need to put it off. One, I was having a conversation in Delaware for a book signing, and more Black people showed up than I even imagined. It was unbelievable. And it was really a lesson that I had to learn also, that it's not easy to trend or go on topic for positive reasons in this world anymore. It's not. So I don't want to say I misspoke, but I could have worded things better if I had known I was speaking on a world stage and not just a small room in Delaware. I shouldn't have invoked the word hood, because when you say the word hood, it makes certain people feel like you're demeaning them. And that's not what I meant at all. I conflated a couple of ideas.
Sure.
Okay.
There's a lot of good in hood. You go to the hood for a better barber experience. You go to the hood for better food. You go to the hood for better basketball, for a lot.
For families, for community, for all of that.
Exactly. And I shouldn't have generalized. Those are the 2 mistakes I made in that remark.
What do you want to clarify about what it was that you
there's 2 types of Black shows that exist. And I actually called Felicia Henderson because I always want brothers and sisters to know that I don't even play in divisive politics. I've never done that. There's no history of that with me. So if I'm called to task to clarify, I will do so. I called Felicia Henderson, who was one of our early writers on Family Matters. She went on to create Soul Food. She has a PhD in all of this stuff now. And I'm like, Felicia, what can I say to people that would help them understand at least, more about what we really deal with behind the scenes in the creation of these shows. She said, well, there's two types of Black shows. One is a Black themed show that from its inception and development is meant to depict characters, stories that are steeped in the Black experience from the Black POV. Then there is a Black cast show, which from its inception is designed to appeal to middle America, mainstream America, and for very special episodes, they will address cultural issues. Needless to say, we were the latter. Internally, as a Black community, we tend to give more props and to the one that is the Black themed show that is from exclusively our POV. It's all about us. It's so intrinsic. So that's another thing about Hood is that for me, I didn't see it as a put down. I'm sorry if I did anybody who was offended, because Hood to me means intrinsically people of color to the degree that only we know what's going on. That's the way I meant it. And ultimately, you need everybody on the entire spectrum of Blackness to push the agenda of creating more programming. So when one you don't necessarily identify with one. Now I just jump into a quick story for you, and I'll wrap it up. But I think you'll appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to hide who it was. So I'll go ahead and say it. But Penny, forgive me. But it was like, I was really close with Penny Hardaway growing up, and he and I were passionate about basketball, video games, everything, TV shows. And I remember he and I having a very spirited debate about, what are the best Black shows on TV back in the day. And he said, and I said, The Huxtables. I said, hands down, it's the greatest Black family show there is. He was like, nah. I'm like, dude, how can you even say that? He was like, Good Times. I'm like, dude, how can you even say that? Mm-hmm. And he was just like, he was like, nah, that shit wasn't real. Good Times was Hood. They kept it real. That shit wasn't real. So him being the bigger star at the time, especially physically, actually, but it'd be, bottom line, we're in a room debating this with guys. I lose that argument quick. Because it's like, yeah, no, Good Times was Hood. They kept it real. They kept it real. And I think when I answered that question in Delaware, I think subconsciously I was still in that argument.
In that room, yeah.
In that room,
right.
Because he just dismissed everything that we just sat here and talked about. Jack and Jill, Blacks in Martha's Vineyard at Oak Bluffs, your mom and dad dancing in the living room together to some jazz. My parents actually did that. That wasn't just Cliff and Claire. But because that wasn't his experience that he could identify with, he was like, he was hella dismissive. Now, ultimately for me, I'm like, well, guess what? The experience that you're not necessarily identifying with, it actually traveled the world better. And it actually helped people who never see us in foreign lands go, oh, wow, I never knew this about Black people and how closely related we actually are.
Yeah. Well, that's what I find interesting. Like, I have a very similar growing up experience. I would say the Cosbys as well, or the Huxtables, the Cosby Show, the Huxtables.
You notice I say Huxtables now because, again, it's triggering. If you say that name, all of a sudden,
for sure.
It just dictates.
It is. And I would say that it was the best because I related, it was so much to my reality.
Yeah.
That's what I grew up on. But I would think that you would have had, because like I listened to the clip and I was like, oh, it sounded like you were bitter at how your show had aged versus other shows. Then I I listen to the book and I hear you talk about other shows and other actors on the shows, your peers, and you're super complimentary. But I would think sitting in front of that audience, and you said you were surprised at how many Black people were there, that you would see that your show and you as a character were so well received and still resonate with Black people.
Oh, 100%.
So the response still was like to look out into the room and see that, them come for you and for what you represent. I would think it would have been a different
response. I spoke for 54 minutes. That's 30 seconds out of 54 minutes. It's easy to, have said something that you shouldn't. That was even a mental tangent. I just told you. I think in my mind, I mentally went back to that place of Penny saying, nah, that's the better show. Yeah. But it's like, but nah, I'm sitting here right now. So is it? And it's not about what's better. It all belongs. I just want everybody to understand where you fall on the spectrum. It will determine how much money you earn. It will help determine what your next, opportunity is, but it all belongs. So I just love the fact that you even said you enjoyed listening to the book.
I did.
And you didn't take away any of that clickbait nonsense that we have to deal with
First
now.
I did.
She was mad.
At first I did, but I can tell you, I listened.
And I'm not mad at that.
Yeah.
Even if somebody said, but like, I was upset. I've seen certain comments that hit me with like, I was really pissed at Jaleel White. And he had what nerve of him to say X, Y, and Z. But then I went and listened to the book.
Yeah, you guys should listen or read.
And that is the best compliment and the best, I will apologize to anybody if it gets them to do that.
I will say this, that it's important that people know a little bit about, and we're doing a podcast here that I'm hosting about the history of Black television. It's important that people know, because even on the set of Good Times, there were internal battles about the portrayal of characters on screen. Esther Roll and John Amos were in a push-pull about the JJ character and what they thought the JJ character meant and what it said about Black people and the social commentary that they wanted infused into Good Times. The Jeffersons was almost a response to Good Times in a way to show a more well-to-do Black family on the Upper East Side. Obviously, it's a spinoff of All in the Family. So when you look at these things, how we're portrayed and the light in which we are portrayed is just a part of our cultural struggle in America. But I don't think that it should be a struggle within us. And I'll tell you why, because
thank you.
It's all part of a Black cultural diasporic experience. The well-to-do. I make fun of Rachel all the time. I'm from South Baton Rouge, Louisiana, right?
Don't let him do you.
I make fun of Rachel all the time. But the reality
is nothing but authenticity over here.
Without a doubt, that's a nigga sitting right there. But I mean, for real. But if
that's what we doing.
If the working class family from South Baton Rouge is Black, the district judge, the U.S. district judge family is Black. We all Black. So I understand what you're saying. I want to ask you this though. The shows that you were talking about when you're comparing shows as far as Family Matters in the 90s, right? When you were saying we do a little bit better here, where do you put Family Matters?
Oh, God.
Where do you rank it with all of the Black? I'm talking about with what Will and them were doing, and the story in the book about Will giving you the 40 bands to come on the show, that's in there. Ashleigh, the My Wife and Kids, that's later on, though. But like Thea lasted one season. Just all of the family shows that existed in the 90s.
I mean, this is what we do.
All of those places.
Now listen, again, I'm getting in trouble generalizing, but this is what we do as Black folks. We always have to be like, who's better? Is it Kobe? Is it Michael? Is it whatever? And I'm like,
we rank them.
We love a top five.
This is what we do. So if we play in that, people can't get offended in that. That's just barbershop beauty salon talk. It is what it is. For me, it hurts my heart because of what's happened to it. But Rachel and I are on the same page. Nothing had the impact that the Huxtables had on this country.
It was the biggest show in America.
They had Super Bowl level viewership.
Yeah.
People were racing home to be in their seats every night at 8 o'clock. There is no Friends phenomenon. Even NBC wanting to protect 8 o'clock at Thursday night if it wasn't for what the Huxtables had done in the prior decade. So to me, that's number one. Now, after that, it's all opinion and it's just about what you identify with. So after that, for my taste, number two was Sanford and Son. Because Sanford and Son got to do something that we're never going to get to do again in television. They roasted each other. They literally, people came in the door to just get roasted. That was the whole point. To get roasted and then turn around and leave with your tail between your legs.
Yeah.
Right? That's we're true. Not going to see that in sitcom or half-hour comedy too much anymore, because now we have the tools technologically for people who felt offended by that roast to say, I don't want to hear that. That hurt my feelings at home. It's like, wasn't nobody talking to you. So what?
Is that good or bad
That's
for TV?
where we are. I think it's terrible. But even though I think it's terrible, I'm going to move with the times. I'm going to be sensitive and say there's another way to entertain people. All right, it is what it is. It's almost kind of like if you can't sell a Looney Tunes anymore because that's too violent for children. You can't drop an anvil on another animal's head. We're like, but these are talking animals that are even doing this. Got it. That's too violent for children. That's a classic. We're going to leave that in the past. So for me, it was San Francisco, but this is personal. 3, Jeffersons.
Yeah.
Jeffersons, again, they rep that other side, right? Right.
Both kind of.
Yeah, it was like, so like I got some money, but I'm still in them word.
Yeah,
I'm still in them word, right? And they did
You
it
can
for
say niggas, okay.
and they did it for some. Man, I don't want no more smoke,
You can
dog.
say niggas.
I'm having
You
a
don't
great.
know. Now don't let him make you say
You can say
it.
niggas, okay.
Apparently, you can say it and I can't. So you know, it is what
Ain't
it
nobody
is.
ever
And
took
he
your
laughs
N-word
when I
past
say
You
it.
know what I'm saying? My black card for the last 2 weeks, my black card got clipped. Like I ain't never, like I don't know nowhere to
You
find
can
no
get
good
it back.
catfish.
You
Like
can
I
get it
never
back
hooped
here.
against anybody. Like, I never. So I would say the Jeffersons were number 3 for me. Number 4, I'm actually saying Living Color.
Yeah.
It's because again, I'm looking at things that change the space globally for us. And Living Color disrupted the Super Bowl, B.
Yeah.
They caused the Super Bowl to get so low ratings in their second half that's why we now have Rihanna and everybody
Oh,
and their mama
really?
They did Super Bowl.
performing
I did not
at
know that.
halftime.
Yeah.
Before the Super Bowl didn't even care. They wheeled out any old body, strum their guitar.
wow.
But they stole such a large part of their audience. I'll never forget that year. I was at Candace Cameron's house and she was having a Super Bowl party and everybody switched their Living Color and nobody went back to the game. Like,
You remember that? Living Color did a Super Bowl halftime show.
and it was live.
No.
They did a live show.
I was too young for that.
She was
Oh,
too
yeah,
young.
she was too
She
young.
was too young. She was embryonic.
I wasn't allowed to watch it. I wasn't allowed to watch Living Color until college.
I think we're somewhere around, I don't even want to say it, but I think we're somewhere around 6 or 7 in terms of the all-time. We're definitely top 10. It's not even a question because of how well we traveled overseas into other different countries.
Yeah, for sure.
As we enjoyed your book, took it in different ways. But as much as I enjoyed it, there were a lot of sad moments.
Yeah.
In the book, like I felt sad for you, like going back in time.
What
hearing
made you feel most sad about what?
Okay, first off, just like hearing the 90s and growing up and like you sharing space. I mean, Jay-Z. I'm like, I almost hesitated saying Jay-Z just now. Jay-Z, or like telling stories about Penny Hardaway, who I had such a crush on when I was a kid.
Of course.
Like, just hearing like how you move through LA and Hollywood and just and your affinity to so many different stars that I grew up watching. It was just really cool. But then to hear how maybe you felt navigating the space, at times I wondered, did you feel like you couldn't be yourself? Did you feel like you had to be Stefan Urquelle? Like those moments, I felt sad for you. Yeah, well, I'll let you answer that first, and then I have a follow-up question.
No, give me a follow. I want the whole thing.
Well, my
You on a
follow-up
roll.
question was, what advice, like as I was listening to how you just like navigate throughout the book, like how you talk about how you grew up and then how it was for you, transitioning from Family Matters on, it made me think of what advice do you have for other child actors, maybe in the past or even present, who may feel like they are being typecast?
So it's wild because the book has kind of ended up becoming like a manual for the child actor experience. And that's not necessarily what I intended for it to be, but it's kind of ended up being that. Please don't feel sorry for me as much. There's a part of
he rich.
There's a part. There's a part. Stop it, man. Stop it, man.
He rich.
In the moment, as you were telling the story,
that's not everything. That's not everything,
it.
dog. That's not everything. And I love that she felt it because if I'm writing something that's not making you feel anything, then I'm missing the point. I did make you feel something, even if it was sadness. In the 90s, life was just different. Like, it wasn't, historically, it hasn't been safe to be intelligent or to be articulate. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are backhanded compliments to say somebody's articulate. And I'm sure you got plenty of that. I'm sure growing up, like, I'm feeling you now, and I'm feeling an authentic Black woman. But then there's a certain side of you also where I'm like, you might be threatening to another type of sister. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, bullying was more accepted back then. And if you survived it, you can look back on it with laughter and lightheartedness. Verbally, it was more accepted. Physically, it was more accepted. I mean, I have a whole bullying situation that went down that if in the age of camera phones, if what had happened to me in middle school happened today, oh my gosh. You want to talk about viral, that would have been a whole mess, right? But I just feel so grateful. I guess what I'm saying is having survived the era and survived my parents' mistakes because they did their best with what they knew. And my mom actually manifested everything for me that she could envision for me. And it took me becoming a grown man to realize, oh, you can't even see what I did right there. You can't even see what it is I want for myself, right? Like my baby's going to college and Warner Brothers is going to pay for it. It's like that was kind of everything. And you know how a woman will get locked in on one thing? It's like, but mom, I got all these other things. Nope, you going to school. She was just locked in on that. So I just feel happy that I survived my parents' mistakes because they were so well-intentioned. And I say they're Hall of Fame parents because if you do anything 3 out of 10, that puts you in the Hall of Fame in the MLB.
Major League Baseball.
And that's how I grade them. You know, so don't feel sorry for me. But the advice that I give to other people is, you know, it's in the book all throughout. Every single story has a lesson if you stop and pause and be like, okay, how can I apply that to my life? Yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it was just like from the outside looking in, how I may have perceived you before listening to the book, it was, you know, Van said, don't feel sorry for him. He's rich. You come from a hit show. You're surrounded by all these stars. You're in these big popular places. And to know that, like, you know, it wasn't as easy at times to navigate, I think is what resonated with me. It's like, oh, you know, things aren't as always as they seem.
Yeah, apart from money, it's always going to be a reality. Even rich folks. You know how many miserable rich folks I know?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I mean, Ben has to say that because that's a good retort. But to say the reality is, it's like, nah, I'm like, you know, I am what you see. And there were certain naivete that saved me. You know, Penny didn't drink. I didn't drink. That reinforced that I would not drink. Back in the 90s, the LAPD hunted your ass if you were black and driving a nice car. Like, that was reason alone to pull you over. Oh, Negro, nice car, tinted windows. Oh, let me pull you over for this 10, have a conversation with you. I got pulled over multiple times driving around UCLA in my vehicles. And lucky for me, because I didn't drink, because of value that Penny enforced in me. And I, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, in my mind, I was an athlete just like him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So in the book, I will say the names named in the book, all right? Their names named in the book. And I read it, and when I read it, I was wondering so you tell 3 stories, one about somebody I know.
We know.
We know. Bianca.
Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
We have to.
Please don't do that.
Please don't do that.
We have
Please
to.
don't do it. Because I meant no bad. It's a funny story. I make fun of myself more than her.
But let me ask you, but here's the thing.
I had a 3x5 index card of itinerary in my back pocket she never knew about. That was what we were going to do for the day.
But look, so there are 3 stories, and I want to take a through line through these. One is about Bianca. One is about Daphne Duplay.
That one out there. You play with that one, though.
That even saying the name Daphne Duplay, as soon as he said the name, image popped in my head.
She
like
on another level, dog.
That's a different level.
I was a ball of yarn to her.
Yeah, right. And then Rashida Jones. So the 3 different black ladies are mentioned in the book.
Oh, and mind you, I had no physical contact with any of them.
With any of them.
Okay, not by accident.
I will say this, that the stories in the book, and then there's another one where you guys got to go in the book and read the Mr. Child story. But the stories of these 3 ladies in the book.
They took our chicks, dog.
Y'all got to go read the Mr. Child story. The through line through these stories is these were women that you had this intense attraction to.
Black women.
That you were trying to impress.
Yeah.
Rashida not so much, because she just, if you read that story, she just kind of played you, right?
Oh, yeah, it was just
being kid shit.
They were teenagers.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that could happen to me.
Yeah.
I knew that existed, but it was like, but at this point, I'm kind of living a fairy tale life, and it was like, oh man, this girl just like.
For you guys who don't know, he's at Buckley. He tries to holler at Rashida Jones. He passes her a note. Rashida Jones goes.
I didn't pass her just any note.
Any note. The note said, call me.
It was folded up as a finger flip football.
Right. Right. The note says, call me.
Straight out of a movie.
And she opens the note.
I took time to go and fold this finger flick football.
She opens
you can
the
play
note,
with this on your own time.
And she goes, oh, no, he didn't, in front of everybody. Destructive if you 16, 17.
Yeah. Oh, no. Charlie
Particularly
Brown
with Bianca and Daphne, the interactions didn't go your way.
Yeah.
And what you extrapolated from that was that they wanted something more from you. That Bianca maybe was trying to get a career leg up, or that Daphne herself.
Which one you want to get on first? We got to stay. We can't convolute.
Okay,
I learned my lesson from Delaware.
Let's talk about Bianca. And I'll just be honest with you. And Bianca Lawson is a friend, right? She's not tripping, right? Like, she's a kid. But do you think you were fair to her? Because you assuming that she wasn't fucking with you because she wanted a leg up in her career is kind of crazy, Jaleel, because her father
was there when I got the number.
I know, is a pretty well-known TV star. So
why was
her
father Richard was a class act. When I'm a dad now, I was like, I got the number. Because that's when you had to get the number. You had to be like, I say it in the book. I say you had to
He did the whole thing. We done all done it before. Hey, 225-152-125. Hey, bro, shut up, dog. I gotta remember the number. We done all done it before if you grew up in the 90s. But it seems like when you read the book that there was a perception that you had about women based upon some of the interactions that you had. And you actually in the book one time actually say that you didn't feel like you were cool enough for black girls.
We'll separate those questions.
Questions. We're doing the Delaware thing. You try to get a quote on me. I've never said I'm not cool enough for black women.
Well,
are you kidding me? No. Thank you. Okay. Protect me, girl.
No, I can't on this one because I have
you come at me however you want, but we got to do one at a time. One at a time. I love it. First of all, I love the fact that you guys weren't bored. Okay, that was my biggest fear writing the book. Is that I'm like, oh man, people gonna be bored.
We weren't bored at all.
People gonna be bored.
Nigga, it's one time in the book where you point out, and this is good book telling right here. I'm gonna shut up after this. It's one time in the book where he goes, these guys are pointing out this guy and they're saying he's going to be the future of the network and he's going to bring the network to the new heights. And they're talking about Bob Iger. And like, if you have shit like that in the book, that's the type of shit that gets me.
All right, so I wrote the book for a thinking person.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't write the book as any kind of tabloidial, I want to shit on all these people. So I knew who I mentioned, even as females. And what I was most proud of this story is how much that I felt like I learned about myself and perhaps even the other person. But there was no physical contact. And those stories mean a lot to me. Like, I know she's your girl now till I said what's up. Like, my experience with Bianca was incredible when I look back on it. And it makes me smile and laugh like a giddy kid almost again, because she was just the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen, where it was like all I cared about was basketball and work. And here I am in my little Armani tux, walking around after I get my win, and this girl just makes me just tongue-tied. And what I regret about it was, and I needed Darius, because Darius was just my co-star, Darius was always so much older than me. And when it came to just dealing with women, I had no sisters. I was an only child. So you're going to laugh at me again, and I'll give the world license to laugh at me. My perception of pursuing women came from romantic comedies and Jack and Jill. I'm supposed to pull up. You know how much my mother bugs me to this day? Are you opening her car door? Are you pulling out her chair?
Well, that's good.
And I'm like, Mama, they don't care about that stuff.
Well, we do.
Like, again, separate. We go back to that. Maybe I'll come up with a separate show. Okay. But I'm like, those aren't the determinants at all, right? I regretted being so immature that I couldn't read subtext in some of her questions. I didn't even see that she wanted to act. I didn't even understand that she wanted to act. I just thought she was accompanying her father and she was in school. So even when she asked me, what are you going to do when the show's over? I was like, oh, I'm going to college. And I could tell it was like, that was almost a deflating answer. It's almost kind of like when you're on a red carpet and somebody says, so what do you have going on next? And you ain't got nothing to say.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, oh, great. Oh, we've got another bigger star right behind you, right? And it was like, that's that's the way I felt in the moment. So when I did see her on TV, I'm like, oh man, she's good too. Like, I missed the boat. I missed the boat.
When
like
you say you missed the boat, what do you mean? You feel
Because-
I'm saying if she had thought that I was taking her own ambitions more seriously, and she was actually deserving of those ambitions, maybe she would have seen me differently and not some just self-centered, spoiled child actor. That's all. But when you're a teenager, you only see what you want.
It comes across like Eureka, it hit you one day that she wanted to use you to get ahead in her career.
So I'm sorry if it came across that way, but it was more, I wanted you to enjoy the stupidity of the 90s. I wanted you to enjoy, me needing Darius to drive me because I didn't have a nice enough car to even take these girls out and I couldn't drive.
Box of popcorn.
The big ass box of popcorn, the way he bad boyed his way into the driver's seat of the whole situation, ordering alcohol without getting freaking checked, carded. Like, to me, what I see that as an episode of television. That's like, oh, if that got turned into an episode of accurate television, are you telling me you wouldn't enjoy it?
I understand that.
It was fantastic.
I understand that.
But you got to answer that. If that were an episode of television, the way it was written, on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of coming of age stories, would you enjoy it?
Sure, I would enjoy it.
But you know what the funny thing is? When I'm reading that with the whole Darius thing, I know what Darius is doing from the beginning.
But you do.
Yes.
But the world doesn't.
Yeah.
Why? You say you were writing a book and you weren't like doing it for the headlines or like tabloidy or anything, but why name them? Because like even when we wrote our books, there were certain names. I remember thinking, do I name this? Do I not? No, I don't want to bring it. I want to talk about
because the stories weren't sexual. So that's why. It was just that simple. The story and I had the choice because there's certain people who are not, the names were changed.
Yeah.
But the stories weren't sexual. And I didn't feel like I was exploiting them as women to speak on anything that happened sexually.
Okay. Now this is where I have a little issue with it.
Come on with it.
And this is what something that Van was alluding to.
Come on, see, this is the part of a Black woman that I enjoy. Come on. I wish we had treats. I wish there was food on the table.
You were talking about how your mom raised you, and you kind of were just alluding to it. Your mom told you to open car doors. Your mom told you to push in chairs. And you were saying that when your mom told you to do these things, it didn't make you attractive to an attractive teen Black girl.
Yeah, nah, you.
I took a little, but that was like a generalization that I took offense to. Like, as we've been saying this
in
whole
LA,
time,
though,
we've been
I'm talking about LA.
But you didn't say LA. I would love for you to clarify, because I read that, and I know if I'm like talking to other people, I read it in general, I'm like, man, like that's such a generalization because it makes it seem like attractive Black girls might not be into a gentleman. And it didn't seem fair.
So once again, that's how I got in trouble with in Delaware. And it's important for us to teach other people, not teach, but share with other people. This is when you get in trouble, when you generalize any statement. Try to be as specific as you possibly can, all right? But in LA, we are not going to ignore that there was a giant period when you were just an embryo and you were not here yet, okay?
I'm an 80s baby.
Where it was, the bad boys were up big. There was a certain aesthetic that, just like he said, he knew what Darius was doing, that Darius might not have been, he might not have had the image of a rapper, but believe me, in private quarters, Darius knew how to move. And so I felt like my mom conditioned me to be a bit of a pushover. And even when I look at her relationship with my father and things that they went through, my dad's a strong alpha dude, but there may have been times in their marriage where he felt run over. And that's something that I had to unlearn. I felt like as a man, where it's okay, how do I be a gentleman? Because that's actually my nature. I love taking a woman out to eat. I love just rubbing a woman's feet while I'm watching TV. But how do I do these things and I'm not taken advantage of, or I'm seen of as just a pushover? And that's what I think I was going through at that stage of trying to figure out, of trying to balance that. And listen, I'm being real. The East-West rap, the cool dudes back there were Pac, Tretch, everything Poetic Justice. That's what was popping. And so the imagery has changed now. So in this day and age, yeah, a woman of any kind would be a fool to dismiss a guy because he wore glasses. What? You'd be a fool to do that. But back then, that's the thing that I enjoy so much about the 90s and why I am busting my butt to clarify and tell more stories from the 90s, because I think that I'm capable of doing them in a way that are, number one, going to be entertaining. It's not going to bore you. And number two, going to be unbiased. Like, you got a problem? Put it on the table. Let's talk about it.
Do you think that
I get it.
your experience with women in the 90s, black women in the 90s, black women in LA in the 90s, had any lasting effects on your perception of black women into your 20s or 30s or 40s?
Nah, because I traveled. Like, I my passport stamped. Like, I'm like, I'd have been all around South America. I'd have been all around Europe. When I talk about any experience that I had with black women, I need people to really focus on the fact that I am from LA. Like, I am from LA so much that when Spike Lee roots for the Knicks on the court, it offends me. Like, I'm like, that's how LA I'm from. So, we have a different culture of woman out here, period.
What does that mean?
Just a lot more cosmopolitan and a lot more opinionated, a lot more like, hey, sometimes, an ambition to be the star, to be the main character. My daughter talks about that. She's, she got to be the main character. These are the terms from her generation. Whereas, in Baton Rouge or in South Carolina or Houston, whatever, you're going to meet a completely different kind of sister. And I live in Los Angeles. There's a large part of love, man, that is geography. And people got to understand that. If I put you in Australia long enough, dog, with that hat, yeah, okay.
But let me tell you something.
Can I take your question a step further?
Sure, go.
Are you okay?
No, go.
And I say this because of what the question I just asked you about the what I just read, what Van was saying, and then what he just asked. And I can say this, having been married to somebody outside of my race. Do you feel like you found that because of what you went through maybe in the 90s and certain things with the perception of black women in LA, to be more specific, that you found non-black women to be more receptive to you, which has led to some of the choices that you made?
I did.
Okay, can you explain that further? And I'm married outside of my race.
I don't want to, the number one thing that I don't think that I always want to make clear is that my appreciation for black women and who I ultimately ended up with as a wife, those things can be mutually exclusive.
I agree.
I don't know why they can't. It's man, I gotta be careful, man. Cause I'm like, I like to answer your question sometimes in funny stories.
Okay.
My job to me is always entertain people because they actually appreciate maybe the point of view better that way, right? I remember I was playing basketball and these two ladies came in, black girls, and it was like one of them was just banging, and I knew her friend, so I'm like, oh man, so I go over to my boy and I'm like, yo, what's up with Aaron's friend? And he was like, hey, do your thing. So you know what happens when you start hooping in front of girls. Now you showing off. I'm throwing no-look passes that don't even need to be no-look.
Deep threes. like you locking the fuck
and
up.
We noticed that, by the way.
I'm playing hella D.
We locking up.
And we know exactly what you're doing. We're like, look at him.
I'm playing hella D, the shirt's off, you know what I'm saying? I'm glistening.
I get it.
Yeah. And I'm winning. I'm running cats. I'm like, run it back.
Right.
Who's the next five, right? So I'm feeling myself. But I'm smitten with old girl off to the side. So when we're done hooping, I knew one of the girls. So I went up to her, finally, I was like, yo, what's up with your girl? She's like, you like my girl? And I was just like, yeah, what's up with your girl? What's up with your girl? She's like, okay, I see you like my girl. I'm like, so I go back over to my boy and I was like, yo, Aaron is hating. Like, I just straight up asked her about it and it was like, whatever. And he was like, yeah, but I think that's her girl. And I'm like, dude, why is everybody hating on me today? Like, I just want a proper introduction. Just say, well, this is Jaleel. We all know each other. She's like, Jay, that's her girl. Oh, okay. So just as long as it took for y'all to get it, that's how long it took for me to get it. And what I'm saying is that life has been changing in a major way over these last 30 years, especially in Los Angeles. And I think even faster in Los Angeles culturally. in places where things like that are not so accepted. And those were 2 Black women.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of them I was really, really feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get to be offended by that. I get to be educated. So if you find somebody in Los Angeles who has something going on for themselves and your character values align and they give a damn about you, maybe I'm just speaking from an older man's perspective, but you hold on to that.
No matter what race, color, creed.
Bingo.
Okay.
Bingo.
But back to the crux of the question was, in what way did you feel that white women were more acceptable?
No, I'm not saying
Well,
that.
not acceptable.
And I will not
you.
allow you to say
receptive to you.
And I won't even allow you to say white women. I won't. Like I watched Kobe Bryant go to Mama Gaia and there was all Latin girls there because that's what he was going towards.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like he didn't date Brandy first and he didn't date all these other Black girls first. I don't get to ask him, why did you end up in Mama Gaia with all the Latin girls?
Mm-hmm.
And it went that way.
Mm-hmm.
Something in his brain was like, okay, was going that way. But it was never, ever, ever about the aesthetic.
Right.
Though. And I'm like, I won't allow it to even go there. Like, that's the part where it's like, this is a beautiful Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what she's into. I'm talking about Rachel sitting right here for people. And I'm like, I don't know what she's into.
I've come home, Jaleel.
If you decide...
Come home.
But it's like, when you meet somebody, you project onto them everything you want them to be.
Mm.
And then they start to become who they are.
Part of the reason I ask is because of what we're talking about in the book, but also because I married somebody outside of my race, and that the world met me on
that
a
level.
white show, but The Bachelor. I went on to The Bachelor was white. Then I am The Bachelorette, and I choose somebody who's not Black. I mean, Colombian, but white.
The nigga
White. And so that's how the world met me.
Johnny specific.
Yeah, but it's what he looks like. It's what he looks like. But that's how the world met me. So they assume that that's all I'm into, not knowing, to your point, when you're talking about Kobe and who he's dated before, they just see that. So that's why I was specifically asking you that as well, because that is who we've really seen, at least for the last, I don't remember the 90s and who, if you were publicly dating people, but that's what people have seen.
I just got tired of pursuing anybody, quite frankly, who would treat you like an option. Anyone. I don't care what color you were. Like, to just treat you like an option. It was just like, ultimately, you have to mature to the point where you can see the people who are interested in you. And it was in my current situation, like it makes me smile because I finally recognized a girl who would never have said anything to me, would not have opened her mouth at all, if I hadn't just been clever enough to peep how she was looking at somebody else, and that person was dealing with me, and then start doing my research. And I enjoyed what that felt like, to know definitively, oh, you like me, like you digging me, you feeling me, as opposed to the shoot your shot perspective. Like, shoot your shot is fun in your 20s, it's cool, but you could also be inviting the worst thing character-wise there is right in the front door because you determined to shoot your shot and catch it.
You know what's funny? I thought about something when I was reading the book. I thought about my relationship with my dad. And my dad would give me quips. And these quips are not politically correct at all. I come to my dad like, because, I'm a kid, it's Star Wars, it's all of this stuff, but I'm also hooping and playing ball, and I got my crew. I read the book and I was like, Jaleel needed a crew.
Oh, yeah.
Jaleel needed a crew.
I didn't get that until I got Penny.
That's why. You got, Jaleel needed a crew.
Siblings.
Because if I was the nerd in my crew, but I had enough in common with them to where I never felt like the outcast in my crew. Remember, I'm having trouble. I'm going up, whatever, I'm talking about girls I like. My daddy looks at me, he goes, son, and remember, he's talking to a 14-year-old. He goes, if a woman wants to fuck you, you have to talk her out of it, not into it.
Ooh. That's your quote, but damn.
And
that's good.
And I was like,
that landed.
And I was like, oh, so that means give yourself, like, be you. It's either up or it's down. It's either in or it's out. So be who you are.
I told the
Be
story
who you
differently. I
are.
sanitized it, because I just let Penny tell the story when Penny told me to sit my ass down somewhere.
Right.
Sit my ass down.
I want to ask you something else. You were never number one on the call sheet on Family Matters?
Oh, yeah.
No, never.
But I get that.
I
get
don't.
egos.
This dude.
It's
Wait,
egos, though.
but wait
it
a
makes
second.
all... It's similar to what you were talking about JJ. Not comparing the characters, but just saying people were upset on his cast at the attention that he was getting. I would imagine you had to play into some of that with the call sheet.
But my question about that is specifically comes back to a cultural one. Reading the book, what you read is just how green your parents were to the business and how green you guys were to the business. And we have conversations about racism in the business, about sexism in the business, about all different types of discrimination. And there always comes a question to where, do you think that there is, because you compared yourself to some of your other contemporaries on the TGIF, or just other people that knew how to negotiate. As Black people that are performers or that are on this side of it, do you think sometimes that our business naivete is why we don't get is it straight racism, or is that we don't know enough that we need to know to go in and negotiate and ask for things and get for things? Like, because when I watched the sick, there's a story in the book where
hold out.
Jaleel got in trouble with his parents.
Mm-hmm.
And the network, so his parents said you can't do the show. And so because his parents said that he couldn't do the show, they faked a sick day, which is in the business, everybody knows, a sick out means I'm not coming to work because I don't like my contract, and because of that, you guys got to figure something out. And the network was on y'all nuts the whole day. But y'all didn't even realize.
And I was loving it. As a kid, I was loving it because I was getting stupid stuff. I was getting kids stuff.
Yeah, y'all didn't even realize that was a thing.
And gift certificates.
So how much of it is, and it all comes from a system of white supremacy, but how much of it is just straight up racism, and how much of it is that, and a lot of times we still don't know the worth of what we're trying to negotiate and ask for?
Yeah, no. Great question. Again, how do I not meander with the question?
Well, I certainly meandered asking it. So.
I can't. I ain't doing it. No more meandering for me. You know what? You have to find a careful balance between knowing your value and not overvaluing yourself. So I think it's more about figuring out how to walk in your path. I said it earlier here. My mom manifested everything for me that she could envision. So everything she missed, she couldn't envision. I don't think it had anything to do with white supremacy or anything like that. Because the leverage was there. If she had felt differently about herself and about what her son deserved, to push the boundaries a lot further, right? But I will say, some of my examples of leverage were white, Macaulay Culkin. Some of my examples of leverage were Black, the cast of New York Undercover.
Yeah.
Right? Both of those circumstances played a lot into how I chose to see myself in all of this.
Explain that to people, because the New York Undercover people got fucked over.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
you can explain it better.
So what happened was, the Macaulay Culkin situation is obviously Macaulay Culkin. He became the highest paid child star of all time.
But resentfully. Because they don't like to break business model thresholds for people that are outside of the box of who they feel aesthetically deserve it. Mm-hmm. Why is a child bending me over for all of this money? I rue the day. That was the sentiment about paying Macaulay.
In the case of the New York Undercover cast, and if you were watching New York Undercover while it was on, there's this distinct memory of the show being so culturally relevant and such a big fucking deal. And then like that, the original cast evaporated and people going, wait, what happened to New York Undercover? And that was because the two leads of the show wanted to hold out for more money. Dick Wolf, who made the show, told them, take it or fucking leave it. One guy took it, the other guy left it.
I don't even know if it was his choice that the other guy left it.
Right.
And matter of fact, the way I understood it, they discovered that Michael De Lorenzo's character was going to be killed at table reading. Like it was designed to be a message. Like, we're tired of talking about this. We're tired of even going on. There's not going to be any back and forth. He's gone. Do you still want your job? That's the way it was framed to me. And what people don't understand is that there's a business side of things that was never meant to be shared like this. This is all new technology and everything, right? So I would sound crazy having these kind of interviews in 1997 with the Hollywood Reporter or the Variety. That's like going to the government to do the interview, right? It's like, right? So, like that resonated across the whole town. And ultimately, Dick Wolf had bigger shows called Law and Order. And New York Undercover for him on a business level was fulfilling a request. Hey, Dick, this is Fox. What's going on, man? What's going on, Dick? Check this out. We get our ass kicked on Thursday night by this must-see TV lineup that NBC has. We don't even know what the heck to program opposite this shit because the whole nation is watching Friends and, I want Diet Coke commercials over there and they killing it. So we're thinking about going the urban direction. That's how they talk. Oh, we think about going the urban direction. All right, well, what's up? Can you give us like a cop show, but like make it hip-hop? Like, can you use like, hip-hop music? Because that's really resonating with Black people right now. I don't know, man. I got 2 other shows. I'm like, I'm busy. Come on, Dick. Come on, do us a solid. All right. How much you gonna pay me? All right, we'll run you this much money. All right, cool, done. Show goes on to become this huge hit within our community. Now, those dudes couldn't walk 5 feet in our community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That, in hindsight, would have been a better relationship to nurture with Dick Wolf over the long run because they didn't realize he was becoming Dick Wolf. Right? So that's all hindsight. And they could have done 5, 6, 7, 8, whoever knows how many seasons of that. And ultimately, the pay would have gone up. But Fox was still a fledgling network at that time also. So Fox didn't have to pay residuals. Fox wasn't even paying a lot of the things that ABC, NBC, and CBS were because they were getting around the law. They were skirting the laws the same way streaming has been.
Mm-hmm.
So from a business model standpoint, Dick was like, I don't need a headache. If this is how y'all want to act, go get another job that makes you just as popular. And so I can actually see it from both sides now as a grown man. I'm like, oh man. And it sucks because that show it meant so much to us culturally. But that's where I got to educate people about the business of how to behave. And when I say behave, that doesn't mean stay in your place. All of us have a responsibility to behave over our beliefs at any given time. That means to just know who you're dealing with. Trust me, if both of them understood that Dick Wolf was going to become Dick Wolf, I think they would have chilled, taken $10,000 or $20,000 less at that time and just let it go up organically.
Yeah, it could have been Law and Order. You've been so generous with your time. I don't want to say too much.
That's a polite way of saying thank you. We'd like you to leave now.
No, because Van may have more questions. Van may have more questions. We do. We do.
I definitely have more questions.
Van has more questions. I have more questions. I was going to say a question that sounded like it was going to be towards the end, but no, we're not done. As long as you want to give us time.
I want to know why you took a girl on a first date to Schindler's List.
I love y'all.
I'm reading the book. Wait. I'm reading the book. Hold on, wait. I'm reading the book. And Jaleel, hold on. I'm reading the book.
It was a stupid thing to do,
and
bro.
Jaleel is talking about all of these issues and these ladies and stuff like that. And then I'm looking at the unforced errors in the book. I'm like, Jaleel.
Oh, yeah.
Jaleel's going out on a first date with a girl. It's their first date.
Gorgeous.
And they're going to the movies.
Just gorgeous.
Going to the movies. And Jaleel's like, I'm taking her to see the new Spielberg film, Schindler's List.
What was the thought?
Like, who in the fuck would take a girl to see Schindler's List?
Because you said rom-com. You said rom-com.
Schindler's List is not a rom-com,
Jaleel. That doesn't set itself up.
Well, the limo was a rom-com. I left out the steak restaurant on the lake, on Lake Minnetonka. I left out some other things that, to cover it up, okay? I left out some things, you know what I'm saying?
Jaleel needed a crew, man.
But I just, again, I love this for us, man. Gosh, I love this for us, man. I love this for us. All of us are how we feel about ourselves.
Mm.
And at the time, I was 17 years old. I'm pulling up at the NBA All-Star game. And man, the NBA treated me well. But
Seems like you had a good relationship.
Yeah, we had a great relationship. We had a great relationship. And then they would leave an itinerary on your bed in your hotel room of all the NBA sanction parties. And the number one NBA sanction party was a party at Glam Slam, which was at Paisley Park, which was at Prince's house. And so I wanted to go bad. I was a huge Prince fan.
Sure.
I mean, Diamonds and Pearls, all this, that's what I'm banging at the time. And I'm like, but I just met this girl. And I mean, she is stunning. To the point where I'm almost like, do you know you're with me? Like that kind of stunning. And so I asked her, I'm like, hey, listen, we can go to Prince's house, but I don't know if we're going to get in because I don't have ID. And, she was a New York girl too. So she's like, I have ID, but I understand, right? And I was like, or we could just go to the movies. I can get the car to take us to the movies. And, lucky for me, she was just so naturally into me at that time that she was just like, whatever you want to do, we can go to the movies. She just hit me with that. So it wasn't about, I didn't want to take a girl to Prince's house, get rejected on not being of age. I don't drink, so now I don't want to feel the pressure to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm around all these NBA ball players.
And Prince.
And Prince, I'm like, I'm losing my girl.
That's the thing. Don't play me.
That's
you didn't want to take it to the point. That's actually smarter.
Yeah, it is.
So if it's between that and Schindler's List, I kind of get it, but y'all should have saw something
but
else.
It actually, can I just say, it would have been really revealing because if she was distracted and was more caught up in all of that, then you would have known what type of girl she was.
But still,
or maybe you already knew and you took her to the movies.
Nah, she was a good girl, man. I can't. I will only have good things to say about that. That would, but listen. As stupid as it was. Again, the story was told to show the innocence and naivete of the 90s.
Yeah.
So the fact that it got that visceral reaction out of you,
I'm like,
that's what I wanted.
He called me.
I'm laughing.
That was not the place to take a young black girl on a date.
You talk about the business, like we just had this whole conversation about New York Undercover and all of that. And you've talked about them wanting to do a reboot, and you've talked about how they wanted to do that, and you get into that in the book. But were you surprised that all these years later, and I don't remember if you put a timeline on when they wanted to do the reboot, but all these years later, that the business hadn't changed and they still saw things the exact same way and wanted things the exact same way from you and weren't being necessarily receptive to how you wanted to do it or any type of evolution of who you've become?
Oh, believe me, the business changes. It changes fast. It just doesn't necessarily change for us so fast. We're really not allowed to be the innovators on a widespread level. Shout out to people. I root for people who I don't even know or I've only met briefly. I did one episode of Atlanta for Donald Glover and worked with Brian and Hero and those guys. And I could tell, I said, these dudes they're making their own show. Like, and when the first season came out, I'm like, it's brilliant. So what happens to us though is when that happens, it's like, oh, only Donald can do it. Period. Oh, it's incredible, but only Donald can do it. Don't try to get another one to do that. And that's the part that I find disheartening. But at the same time, I'm such an optimistic sage. I'm like, nah, just be patient. Don't be a jerk. And, your opportunity will come. I saw single camera half-hour comedies coming in like a storm in the horizon. Just tonally. Comedy is just tone. That's all it is. I saw it coming in with Bernie Mac and The Office and Modern Family. But those shows are more expensive to produce. So typically when they refer to us, and when I say they, I just say the development system, they're always thinking cost as it relates to the urban market. And that was the part that I found very shocking. Like I would have full meetings in my early 2000s with, I won't name certain networks, whatever, but where at the end of our pitch, they'd be like, well, have you taken this to Magic Johnson? Like, oh, I hear he's doing some production things. I just pitched you and you just told me to take this to a basketball player. Now, how does it sound me showing up to Laker training camp because I'm famous and I'm stretching on day one? How the rest of the Lakers, everybody go look at this? Is that Jaleel White over there? What's he doing here? But we get that with a straight face. And we have to just, again, be like, hey, do you validate parking? Thank you very much. And move on to the next meeting. So, no, the business is changing. It is innovating at a high clip. It's just the innovations generally cost a little bit more money. And so because of that, we're always kind of like a step behind. Like, hey, how about we do that reboot or that sitcom? And yeah.
So you're a Jaleel White now. I mean, when I would say that you are Jaleel White, for a lot of my childhood and into my teen years, you were Urkel. Is a part of your hesitance to do a reboot is because you've finally been able to kill Urkel. Because Urkel, you finally become Jaleel White and you don't want to resurrect the melding of your life and the character.
Well, first of all, Purple Urkel is going to live forever, so I can't ever get rid of the name Urkel.
Right.
I'm not worried about getting rid of Urkel.
Right.
I'm not worried about getting rid. But I do love and appreciate that you recognize that the other work that I've done to become me. For me, it's always just been about the audience experience, though. That's what drove me all those years, to keep my box top fade the same and do what I needed to do to play that character, all those characters, was audience enjoyment. And then as I started to get towards, 7th, 8th, especially the 9th season, I could feel they weren't enjoying it as much. The tone was shifting.
What changed?
And everything changed. Like I said, hip hop was coming in hard with the imaging. It was, I talk about it in the book extensively. The one that the biggest usher of change for me was watching Friday amongst my peers at Kirkhoff Coffee House, UCLA, and just the uproarious laughter at Chris Tucker and Cube. And man, God bless Cube. He's done so much for just black film and TV. It's ridiculous if you really break it down who he's discovered. So I don't worry about the people who will always see me as that because they've decided they will always see me as that anyway. I'm more concerned with the thinking people like yourselves who see each step as another step in the journey. For me, reboots are not working. And even and the ones that would work, they don't even want to make for us. I don't know if you've noticed, but there are no black reboots. Girlfriend should have been rebooted easily.
I know a little something about that.
I can think, but again, there's probably some business stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's probably some business stuff, but so I'm not going to stick my hand in it. But I'm like, I can think of 4 or 5 different black shows that I'm like, why didn't you reboot that? Why didn't you reboot this? And there's always some kind of personal or business matter in the background that's holding things up. I want to advance the culture. So I wrote my book really to be inspiration for what I think the show needs to be, which is just a celebration of the 90s and not my childhood, but actually the characters surrounding my character would be the more full characters now. Now you would get a chance to explore what Darius McCrary really was. And we were 6 months apart in age. Nobody realizes that watching that show. That you're watching 2 boys that are 6 months apart in age. To put that on screen, that's entertaining. That's funny as hell. Like I was literally trying to get an autographed poster from Steven Spielberg on the lot when we were shooting at Sony as kids, and because he was shooting Hook next door. And all Darius was trying to do was get Julia Roberts to his dressing room.
What you think about Darius now? Darius, hold on, I want to ask you that.
I would have been you.
What do you think about Darius now? Darius is in the headlines for something crazy every other day. No, I'm asking you, man. I just say Darius is in the headlines for something crazy. What do you think about his whole
You ain't got no
art?
uncles in your family that's wild? You had those?
Everybody.
They all are wild.
Everybody has the one.
So he's the wild uncle.
There you go.
Darius is the wild uncle.
There you go. And he knows it. And I could call it right now. We just laugh at it. It was like,
Are you ever concerned for him? Are you ever reach out to make sure he's okay?
No, because I'm concerned for some other ones. Now, there's some other ones out there I'm concerned with. That other one from Raven's Home. That one, that's another level of crash out.
Orlando.
That's another, I won't say that. That's another level of crash out. But Darius.
Well, what's the thing there? Like what?
Well, because that I don't want to even talk about that. I want to talk about Darius.
Okay, cool.
Darius is very aware of what he does. But he, he is very aware of what he does. Darius don't, other than the child custody stuff, Darius don't go to jail. Darius doesn't really,
It's not dangerous.
Darius is not dangerous. I'm telling you, this business has turned all of this into a game of attention.
That's true.
And if you don't find your peace in that, like, I'm not here for attention. I'm here because it's you, dude.
I know, yeah.
And then I get to meet you, and I've watched you. So whether you realize it or not, you attracted me here to talk to you based on how you conduct yourself here. And then I'm going to go off and have a good day. Not everybody moves that way. Like, there's a lot of people that are like, they're in pursuit of something else that might not be so healthy, but that's their journey. And so Darius is very self-aware, and I'll never denigrate what he does. But I do know that his childhood speaks for some of the wildest that you see now, because I saw the sides of it upstairs in his dressing room where I was not allowed to go as a kid.
You talk about your relationships with several cast members in the book. What do you, and so I don't want to get into all of that, but we've talked about so much, we've covered so much. What do you, I guess I could ask this two ways. What do you want people to take away from the book? And maybe also, people think they know you, but they really don't until they listen or read this book. I suggest listening because I think it's a lot more fun. But what do you think is also like the biggest misconception people have about you?
I don't know. I'm like, I don't want to just throw it back to you, but I'm really enjoying getting y'all's feedback. What were your takeaways of me from listening to or having read the book? I want to hear it. Because I could have a whole laundry list or whatever, but I'm like, I'm enjoying what the actual takeaways were. Like, I sat at my computer, I did this, this is...
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
We're a lot alike. We have a lot of similarities. Yeah. I didn't know your story about how you grew up. Like, I think I knew you were an only child. But, I kind of felt like I grew up with you, just watching you through the 90s, but I didn't realize we had a lot of the same similarities. And some of the things that you did and how you reacted, like you just said, you were trying to get Steven Spielberg's autograph because Hook, like I would have been trying to see Hook. Like there were a lot of similarities that I was like, oh, I'm a lot more similar than I thought. Like that was like a interesting thing to me.
I think me reading it, there was a direct choice that was made by you and your family. And the choice was made, you had to navigate all of these different cultural things in a time where culture was like snowballing down this hill, right? We're getting gangster rap, we're getting all of this stuff. And your family made a choice to preserve something about you that would be lasting in terms of who you would be as a person, rather than build something else, maybe a little bit more synthetically or maybe a little bit more from a celebrity standpoint that might have changed your overall outlook or your overall trajectory in things. It's almost as if they chose your mental health and your, you being around over maybe you being the cool thing at one point. Like you saying, like little things in the book. Like you saying, you and Bumper Johnson went to Buckley. You had never been to Buckley before. If you guys don't know,
this is Bumper Robinson. No, I gotta give it
Bumper Robinson. Excuse me. Buckley, if you guys don't know, is one of the biggest, fanciest private schools out here. Buckley, Harvard, Westlake, Notre Dame, all of these places like that. Now Sierra Canyon, right? Your parents wanted you to go to South Pasadena. They wanted you to go there.
My mom was adamant, you're going to public school.
They wanted you to go to public school. Now, had you gone to Buckley, you might have had a different trajectory. You might have seen things a little bit different. Yep. But in the long term, it might have been at the expense of you being a healthy man right now. And there are pros and cons when you do that. But I do look at some of the observations that you have on culture, and it does sometimes seem like you grew up as the quintessential nerd in a time where, because I was a nerd, but you grew up like, and still am. You grew up as the quintessential nerd in a time where in the worst possible time to be that.
Thank you.
I'm just being for real.
No, I'm not insulted by that.
In the worst possible time to be that.
Yeah.
Now,
did you feel that in the moment though?
It wasn't safe to be overly intelligent. It wasn't safe to.
I don't want to say overly intelligent though, because I think
peculiar. Pick a word. Again, people get hung up on these words.
No. The only reason why I won't say overly intelligent is because I don't want to. I think when I think of first of all, it's interesting. The nerds went on to rule the world, and they've always ruled, right? They just always, in that same decade that we're talking about, you see the rise of Bill Gates, which happened in 90s, and you see all of the guys now, the tech bros.
But they didn't get love for it back then.
They didn't get love for it back then, but by the time...
Look at Jeff Bezos' early interviews, dog, in that car.
But by the time Country Grammar comes out, you got Nelly, no shirt on in St. Louis, saying, Bill Gates let me in now. So like,
because you got money now.
That's what I'm saying. So, but what I'm saying is, I think that might have had like a profound effect on you as well.
Oh yeah.
On the way that, on some of the cultural outlooks that you have. Have you embraced the fact that the nerds won, the Urkels won, we got billions of dollars at the MCU, we got Star Wars on Disney Plus, we got to be able to, we got anime going crazy.
Going crazy.
We won. like we won. When I leave this podcast, I'm going to do a podcast where I'm talking about the new Superman trailer. Yo, the game is over. We won. We don't even got to think about it no more.
And I think ladies like that.
If I could, if there's a movie I could remake, I'd put a whole flip on Revenge of the Nerds, because today it would be called Revenge of the Jocks.
Yeah. Like, we won.
Oh, you should do that.
You should. I mean, like, we won. Actually, to be honest with you, we're the bad guys now.
Okay, relax.
Okay, he got calmed down. He get carried away. He get carried
away. He's gonna say Musk. He's gonna say
Zuck, Elon, Bezos, all like Gates, all of these people. We're the bad guys now. We are now the jocks in the 80s.
You just put yourself on the
level. I can feel his head expanding inside that hat. I can feel it. Keep the hat on, dog. That would be freaky if we actually saw it expand on camera.
How many Diddy parties you been to?
Never invited.
You never got invited to the Diddy party?
I never. I mean, we crossed paths with homie, but never invited.
See? Winning.
Right. How much of this stuff do you believe about preying on young, because we've talked about this before in the last 15 years. How much of the stuff do you believe about the industry from even a sexual or an exploitative way preying on young stars? How much of that stuff do you think is true?
I mean, taking advantage of the young and the naive is just integral to the Hollywood existence. You know, you don't even need to put a color on it or whatever. Like, once somebody peeps you and it's like, oh, you don't know? Whatever they want from you, they're gonna try to get it. And it's like, I'm not being dismissive. I'm just like, for all the mistakes that my parents made, their number one instinct was to protect me. I'm not leaving my son on that set full of adults alone for hours at a time. People who would be predators see that and they go, oh, not that one. They move on to easier prey. So, you know, it was like, even the situation that just happened with Jay-Z's accuser. You know, I really hope that bigger publications give him the apology that's coming, that's deserved. Because I heard that the accuser's father came out on record and saying he has no record of ever having driven her.
Yeah, the case looks like a sham.
Okay, driven. Okay, that is a huge reveal. And all of the media outlets that have maligned him and run it as the clickbait, that, you know, put this light on it, they're not going to spend nearly as much time retracting it. They're just going to be like, oh, it went away.
No, they won't. I have a little bit of a different take, but
I don't, and listen, one of the things we got to do better, because, and that's one other reason I came, is like, we got to be careful now in this new age of clickbait, of tangenting.
Correct.
And I've watched you correct yourself and me a couple of times, and we've been helpful with each other in that. But just leave it at that. Like, yo, that case is a sham. That man is owed an apology regarding that shape, regarding that case.
Talk, Rachel.
Talk. If you got something else you want to say, but I'm saying for me, regarding that case.
I
The
think
girl's
that we have
father said
learned.
she doesn't remember.
I think that we have learned on this podcast in particular to, when something like this falls out or rolls out, right? Jay-Z's not the first. We've talked about other people when there have been
not the first to what?
When there have been accusations that have been made against someone. Thank you. To be clear, when there have been accusations made, and so when we try to speak on it, I try not to say I believe this or I don't believe this or this is not true or I'm picking a side.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to maintain that same energy, even though everybody thinks that I am picking a side. I'm gonna wait for this to see. I'm not in a place where I can say he's already owed an apology. I'm not in a place to say
it's not enough for you that there's no criminal charges and that the girl's father says she didn't.
Well, there can't be criminal charges because the statute of limitations has run on what that charge would be in the state of New York. There can't be any federal charges because that has to be brought by a government agency.
What about the girl's father saying he doesn't remember driving his daughter?
I said that's the most damning thing. That's pretty rough. I also said that the father coming out is also weird to me. Like coming out and making a statement in front of the press.
Why isn't it more weird the father coming out and making a statement? Because he's associated with that's his daughter. First of all, let me tell you something. Hold on. Because I'm a girl dad. So that one,
do you think you would come out?
There's no way in the world my daughter could be involved with something like that. And I'm not standing right by her side. There's no way in the world. If my daughter was involved in something like that. Would you come out against
your daughter? Because that's what he essentially did.
It's one or two things are going to happen.
That's what I just find a little weird.
It's one or two things are going to happen. At least for my daughter. And my daughter, I have a great relationship with my daughter, knock on wood. I'm either standing by her side or that doesn't even go public. Because I understand how is it going to affect the long term of her life.
What do you mean by that?
But if the daughter goes public without you knowing, are you then going to get involved? Or are you just going to be like...
Because I either have to know the truth and support her, or I have to guide her and be like, honey, this is half-baked.
What she's saying is there a situation where you could think of publicly...
having the latter conversation with...
Right. Publicly saying, publicly not showing support for your daughter's claim.
That's what I'm saying is weird.
That's what Rachel's saying.
That's just odd behavior.
And by the way, just to let you know, real quick, the way I look at this is you judge these things based upon the information that you have, right?
Why all of the publicity when you have so many ifs?
Right. So
that's the part that I have an issue with legally.
This is my deal. Any accusation of that magnitude against a celebrity of that magnitude is going to generate a whole lot of interest.
Exactly.
And so what I said before that got washed in the dick riding in the conversation was, if you knew Jay-Z and you thought that Jay-Z was incapable of doing what was accused of him, that is okay. Your parasocial relationship with Jay-Z, meaning him as a big-time rapper, that doesn't mean very much because you don't know him, right? No. However, if information comes out and information is reported, because information is what's needed to make decisions about these cases, both in court and in the court of public opinion, and you get information that is rife with inconsistencies, and the story that's being told doesn't look like what happened, it is completely okay for you to say, I do not think that he did it. And
yes, you can.
Right. And so that's the only thing. So if there's another side of this where we'd have to litigate what accusers remember, how a trauma plays into somebody's recollection of something.
all
of that stuff.
I don't want us to
right now, with the reports that have come out, if you look at that, and I personally do, I look at it and I go, okay, this doesn't look like something that took place.
It doesn't look good.
Okay, it doesn't look good. And I'm in agreement. So I'm in agreement. So now, not to convolute the discussion.
Because I want to ask you a direct question about this real quick.
Convolute discussion. Ask me your question.
My question is this. Going back to this, not to get too into the Jay-Z thing, how much, when we look at these situations, Nickelodeon had a whole Quiet on the Set thing. Yeah. And they talked about the culture that was surrounding Nickelodeon.
And I finally broke down and watched Quiet on the Set.
And one particular producer there, I want to ask you what you think about Quiet on the Set, but I also want to ask you a direct question based upon something that you said. How much responsibility for the mistreatment of kids in the business goes directly back to the parents or the authority figures of those kids
Again, I don't ever want to feel like I'm attacking other parents that I don't know.
Sure.
You just gotta, I know it seems like I'm selling books, man, but I'm selling you a vibe. Really, I am. The first miracle in our lives, it's in our book. It's just who you're born to. So, if it wasn't your parents' instinct to protect you in that way, then your journey is going to go left. When I watched Quiet on Set, as soon as that boy's father was removed from the circumstance with that divorce that he went through with his wife, the father knew. He said, something ain't right with this dude.
Yeah.
But mom's wasn't connected enough to dad's instinct to protect her son and was easily brainwashed into his removal. And just like a game of chess, once he got dad out of the way, he had his way. And so that's, my journey, is such a salute to parents who've made, who go that extra mile to understand that, your child needs protection. It's not everybody's instinct. It's just not. Like my daughter, man, I knew my daughter was in a co-parenting situation. Sometimes she's going to be with her mother, sometimes she's going to be with me. It's one of the most heartbreaking things you could go through as a parent, especially when you're not on the same page with the other person. When we walk through a parking lot, my daughter's 3 years old. We play a game called Brake Lights, Driveway, and I give her little prizes or whatever when she pointed out the brake lights before me or whoever said it first. You know why? Because when you're walking through a parking lot, you see brake lights, it means the car's backing up. And I don't want my daughter growing up with some suburban mentality that cars are just supposed to always stop for me. And, if I see a driveway, I should just be on my phone and just walk it. No, I'm teaching my child at 3 years old, get the big picture, be aware. That's my instinct. That was given to me by Gail and Michael. That's largely what the book is about. My daughter carries that now.
You had a second question?
No, that was it. Look, man, the book is called Growing Up Urkel. It really is. If it was whack, I'll tell you, you know that. It really is a fun read. It's a fun read with a lot of stuff in there. And it's also a trip back through a different era of television. Streaming has changed a lot of stuff.
Oh, man.
But watching how we got to the point or how television was and how acting and celebrity affected people in the 90s where there really was a celebrity monoculture, when something really could become your entire identity. It's a very, very interesting read. Last thing, are you rich forever from Family Matters? So you never have to work again?
I'm gonna be all right, man. But I do other jobs. I work.
I know you work.
I don't like people treat me like I'm a dad with no job. like I'm Tommy or something like that. I ain't got no.
You're on Skeleton Crew right now on Disney Plus, great show, and you also married well. But you also married well. But if for nothing else, you never have to work again because of Family Matters.
I'm always gonna work, brother. I just don't even see life that way. I do. I don't. He's so bad. I love it though. You know,
I used to go back in the office at TMZ, and I would be like, because I'd be either running or walking. I'd be like, yo, man, this nigga Jaleel got the best life in the world.
Don't be telling me that. Come on, man.
It's 1:00 and Jaleel riding his bike. Jaleel with his daughter.
Maybe I work at night. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I have graveyard hours. You know my favorite moment of this entire chat, though?
What?
Is you being able to tell me, I was mad at you.
Yeah.
I saw that clickbait and I clicked on it. I didn't see it as clickbait. I didn't appreciate what you said, et cetera, et cetera. But I took the next step as a Black woman to go listen to your book, and hearing your voice and even talking to you right now, has just changed my opinion about a lot of things. That in itself warms my heart, makes my holidays. You really don't even understand.
Oh,
because
well,
even I, somebody who's been on television my entire life, that makes me feel seen in a very special way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because watching the clip, I was disappointed. I shouldn't even say mad. I was disappointed that was your take. And then, now I know in a different way. So hopefully everybody else will feel the same way. I was staring at the book because I was like, Adam Sandler did.
Blurbed it.
Yeah,
yeah. What's y'all's relationship?
I was in the movie Hustle.
Okay.
And it was just such a meaningful time. I think first of all, I think Hustle is an amazing.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie. I spent 18 days quarantined with him shooting that movie.
Can he hoop?
And yeah, he can hoop. He's not as athletic as he used to be, but Adam's a great passer, and he's a wonderful teammate.
Most is the most, because me and you done talked about Sterling and Mike and all of the guys we know are good players, Chris Brown, all the rest of them. Who's the most unexpected good Hollywood basketball player?
Oh, number one was Brian McKnight.
No. That's expected. We know him.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
No, he could. No. He could play in a real way.
And the worst part about it, Brian would tell you about it. So nobody likes being trash talked by an R&B person.
But he also like 6'4", 6'5", or something like that.
Right.
Like he could really play.
I'm gonna do you, and I'm gonna take your girl, or you're gonna be listening to my music while you're trying to get your girl.
That's hilarious.
Unexpected. There's an R. Kelly story in the book too. That's very funny. But the most
did you enjoy that one?
That was hilarious because I've heard that story, that same version of that story, from so many different people. I'd say R. Kelly is a fucking scumbag, but he would play basketball a lot and everybody would talk about it. It's interesting how you connected what you saw from him on the basketball court to who he would end up eventually being revealed to be. It really is an interesting connection.
A lot of the Bill Cosby story. There's a lot of interesting.
The people who have negative things to say, and I really try to ignore them because there's so much positivity I'm getting. I'm like, man, I'm leaning into that. That I was like, it's not about me. It's just that I have this really interesting journey in my life that's taken me past some of the most iconic people and some of the most iconic moments. And so I just want to be used almost in a Forrest Gump kind of way to be like, oh, wow, Jaleel White was there? Like on my graduation day, OJ's Bronco went right by my hotel, the hotel where my mom was having brunch. And I'm begging the bartender to please put on the Knicks versus the Rockets finals. And he's like, I'm sorry, everybody wants to watch. I said, what? The car's down there. They can look out the window. Can't we put on the game? Right? That's just a crazy Forrest Gumpian moment for me to have in my life. So I think there's a part of the 90s and a part of the early 2000s that people yearn for. Just greater communication and greater, and I just think that my book and the stories are like that, there need to be more of.
I agree.
Growing Up, Urkel, the movie. I want to see it next. I want to see it.
Yeah, on Tubi.
Tubi not going to pay the rate. They're not going to pay the rate.
Tubi doing good. Y'all hating on Tubi. Tubi doing good. Y'all memed Tubi into being a legit fucking streamer. Y'all don't even see what Tubi doing. They incepted y'all. Appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah,
brother.
thanks for coming.
Appreciate you. All right. That is enough podcast for today. Thank you to Jaleel White. The book is Growing Up Urkel. And it's a good read.
And a great listen.
Good read. Great interview.
From you too. That was a lot of fun.
We
didn't even anticipate that being the whole podcast, but it was so good. We had to keep it going.
What else? What topics? Okay, let's real quick. What topics didn't we do because
we did not do, which I'm pleased about. We did not,
Cardi B and Offset.
We didn't get into the mess of their relationship drama, which continues and will continue to continue. So I'm sure that will come back up.
You read them off. Tell them what we
did not get into. This is breaking news as of Thursday morning. Georgia Appeals Court disqualifies Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis from prosecuting Trump. That is something that we have been covering. We should still touch on that because I'm sure there'll be more. That's just breaking news. So I'm sure more developments will pop out today, Friday.
Yeah.
And so we'll cover that.
Michael Vick getting the job at Norfolk State.
I hope that trend continues.
Trinity Rodman opening up about her relationship with her dad on Call Her Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very tough to hear.
I know. It's one of the, I like the relationship stuff. I hate with love. I also hate hearing the relationship breakdown with the parent and child. But
yeah, but sometimes I look at stuff like that as actually
a wake-up call?
Wake-up call.
I don't think it's his first wake-up call.
I don't think it's his first wake-up call, but I do think that this is, just from seeing this, I do think that this puts a different level of scrutiny.
But see, then I start to question.
Why can't I say what's scrutiny?
Scrutiny. But then I begin to question, well, then what's the motive behind it? Are you doing it because of the backlash that you're getting publicly? Like that's I would question, what is his motive?
Well, I mean, that's a fair question.
Because you've had years to
Right. I would say that sometimes you need to know just how bad things are. And maybe
Well,
that could be right about it. I don't know. But we're
hearing
not
it
doing
from
the
your
topic, so
child
there it
should
is.
be enough. But
And
okay.
also, one more thing was Donnie put this in. Pornhub says it will block access to its site in Florida. Florida, you voted for it. Now you can't jack off. Okay?
And you joined 12 other states.
12 other states. Y'all, I just want to let y'all know. Y'all voted for this. Y'all voted for the outlawing of jacking off. There's so many things that's coming. Like, think about this. Think about what y'all voted for. Measles is coming back. Polio, back. Y'all voted for a world with measles, polio, and no jacking off.
Let's lighten it. You know, we're in an era of reboots. Well, let's go to reboots.
We're rebooting polio.
We're rebooting polio. We're
it's a
rebooting
reboot.
measles.
We're rebooting and we're rebooting chastity and making people not. So we're rebooting. So that's good. Rach.
Yeah.
I like that. We're going to talk about things that the Trump and the new political system is rebooting.
Yeah.
We're rebooting authority. Oh, did I tell you something? We're rebooting.
What?
No niggas at Ivy League schools.
Oh, yeah.
All the way down. I think the 16 niggas got into Harvard.
19.
19
since they removed affirmative action.
19. So we rebooting racism.
That never left.
Yeah. Discrimination at these. It's a reboot. It's a reboot. We just had Jaleel White. We like a reboot. We like a reboot. We like a reboot.
Other storyline, Disney pulls transgender storyline from Pixar's Win or Lose streaming series. That's getting a lot of attention.
Rebooting transphobia.
Right? Also, not surprising if you've been following the journey of Disney.
It will be interesting to see who is still susceptible to the woke rules. Because now that woke is dead, right? The idea of woke, which, by the way, I'll just say this real quick because people were talking about woke and what woke means. The only thing that people were trying to do was create an inclusive world where we monitor discrimination, oppression, and disparities, right? We're trying to look at the world through a lens of equality. Now, I will be honest. When doing that, there sometimes is the penchant for self-righteousness. And sometimes when that happens, you might lose the ability to relate to people in a way that allows you to clearly explain the altruism of your position. You might put yourself in a situation when you know or believe that your way is the better way to divorce people from their humanity and who they are and the cultural systems that created them and start to not interrogate those systems, but interrogate those people. And when you do that, you create enemies.
Yeah.
Now, I don't mind creating enemies.
No, you don't.
Just because, I've never been the most popular guy in the room wherever I've been. However, there is something to be said about learning lessons in the way to present your version of society to people that makes sure that everybody knows that it's there for the betterment of it and not for the persecution of any one or two or three people.
Yeah, well said.
And so I think that is the lesson to be learned. Not that the capture of a term or an ideal should be used or the capture of that term should be submitted to. We should say, hey, whatever.
Yeah.
But there are lessons to be learned, and I hope that people can learn those lessons. Mini pod after Jaleel is over now. Take your thinking caps up, but do not stop learning. I'm Van Lathan Jr.
I'm Rachel Lynn Lindsay. Bye, guys.